There are truths that pierce more than lies, not because they're cruel, but because they strip the fantasy. They don't scream, they whisper, and still, they shatter everything. You were told love was simple, that if you gave your heart, she'd give hers, that loyalty meant something, that effort guaranteed results, that if you were a good man, love would reward you. But no one warned you. A woman does not love the way you do. Not because she's heartless, but because she's wired for something else. Something older, deeper, colder. Instinct, not emotion. Evaluation, not devotion. You love through fusion, she loves through filtration. You collapse into her, she calculates around you. While you dream of soulmates, she scans for strength. And when her gaze changes, when her texts dry up, when her energy withdraws, you don't just lose her, you lose the story you were writing in your head. The fairy tale that held your soul together. Most men don't survive that moment. They react, they beg, they chase, but the Stoic man? He doesn't crumble. He sees, clearly, brutally, calmly, because he knows the pain isn't punishment, it's initiation. And when you finally see it not through anger but through Stoic clarity, it changes everything. So stay with this video until the end, because the final part will help you realize your worth and give you the clearest path forward. Part 1. Her love is not your love. You want love to mean devotion, permanence, a sacred bond where emotions are mutual, sacrifices are balanced, and loyalty is returned in kind. You want her to choose you once and keep choosing you, no matter how life shifts. That's how you love, from depth, from soul, from a need to merge. But she doesn't see it that way. Not always. Not biologically. Not instinctually. Her emotional world is more fluid, more adaptive. While you're anchoring yourself in longing and building cathedrals out of connection, she's evaluating. Not because she's cruel, not because she's playing games, but because her body, her biology, her subconscious is wired for something different. Her love is conditional, not because she wants it to be, but because survival made it so. She feels, she bonds, but she also scans, she tests, she senses shifts in your energy. If your strength falters, if your vision blurs, if you begin orbiting her instead of leading your own life, her instincts trigger, and she may not even know why. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Her emotions? Outside events. Her affection, her attention, her shifting desires, none of these are within your control. Yet you keep trying to earn love like it's a transaction. You give more, hoping she'll meet you halfway. But nature doesn't trade in fairness. It trades in utility. Your love language is permanence. Hers might be adaptation. You expect stability. She's wired for responsiveness. And the longer you resist this truth, the more you suffer. Not because of her actions, but because of your refusal to accept the rules of a game you never chose, but are still playing. Part 2. The biological system you weren't told about. The Stoics taught us to live according to nature. But most modern men were raised on fiction, not nature. You were taught that women love like you do, deeply, endlessly, unconditionally. You were told that if you're sincere enough, present enough, soft enough, she'll just know you're the one. But her nervous system isn't romantic. It's strategic. Beneath her words and conscious thoughts lies an ancient radar, scanning for strength, security, and symbolic value. This isn't manipulation, it's instinct. It's how nature ensures survival. When that radar no longer detects advantage, be it emotional, genetic, or material, her attraction fades. No arguments, no final confrontation, just a cold shift. She pulls away, slowly or suddenly, and you stand in the ruins asking what you did wrong, but you didn't do anything. She simply no longer feels what she once did. And she doesn't owe you an explanation for an instinct she herself doesn't fully understand. Epictetus said, "It's not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them." What destroyed you wasn't her withdrawal. It was your belief that love, once felt, must remain forever. That if you loved her purely, she should never leave. But that's not how nature or people work. We don't suffer because reality is cruel. We suffer because our expectations are misaligned with truth. Her behavior wasn't betrayal, it was recalibration. Her instincts, those same instincts that once pulled her toward you, now point elsewhere. And you must decide, will you collapse under that shift? Or will you become a man who is no longer shaken by what he cannot control? Part 3. You didn't lose her. You lost the illusion. What broke you wasn't her silence, it was the invisible collapse, the quiet implosion of a story you thought was real. You were writing a love story in your mind, crafting a future, believing that the sacrifices, the loyalty, the emotional depth you poured into her would be matched. But she wasn't reading the same script. She was living something else entirely. She may have said forever, but her biology never promised that. Her words came from a place of emotion in the moment. Your belief in permanence came from a place of programming, from culture, from childhood, from centuries of romantic lies. You thought, if I stay loyal, she'll stay. You thought, if I sacrifice, she'll see my worth. But that's not how reality rewards love. Stoicism warns us against attachment to outcomes. You don't control what others do. You only control how you show up, with integrity, with presence, with purpose. Seneca said, "He who is brave is free." But what you called love was not bravery, it was dependence. What you thought was loyalty was actually fear. Fear of losing her, fear of being alone, fear of not being chosen. You were not brave, you were attached. And attachment always ends in collapse, because anything external that you hinge your identity on, whether it's a woman, status, praise, or security, is a ticking time bomb. The day she pulled away wasn't the beginning of your pain. It was the moment you were forced to face how much of your power you had handed over without realizing it. And that pain? It wasn't her punishment. It was your awakening. It was the brutal moment when Stoicism steps in, not to make you colder, but to make you see. You didn't lose her. You lost the illusion that she was your forever. And now, standing in the ashes of that illusion, you face the only question that matters. Will you keep begging for a fantasy to return? Or will you reclaim your reality, yourself? Part 4. Why she stops feeling you. She doesn't leave because you made one bad move. She leaves because over time, your presence lost its gravity. She stops feeling you, not all at once, but piece by piece. It happens in the small ways you let your power slip, in the moments you made her the center instead of standing firm in your own. Not by shouting, not by demanding, but by forgetting who you are. You thought love meant showing her how much you care, texting more, proving more, explaining more. But while you were expressing affection, she was assessing alignment. She wasn't watching how hard you loved, she was watching how deeply you respected yourself. And when you started shrinking, second-guessing, apologizing for your presence, doubting your worth, she saw what you couldn't, that you were no longer the man she first felt. And when that happened, her attraction didn't die, it simply redirected. A woman's instinct doesn't betray you. It recalculates. She doesn't sit and rationally decide to devalue you. Her subconscious just stops feeling drawn to what no longer reflects strength, certainty, or direction. She may not even be able to explain it, but her behavior changes. Her gaze softens, her enthusiasm fades, her body withdraws. You think it's because you weren't nice enough. That maybe if you just try harder, say the right thing, be more vulnerable, she'll come back. But the opposite happens. The more you plead, the more invisible you become. Because her attraction was never tied to your emotional need. It was tied to your grounded presence. In Stoicism, the lesson is sharp. Don't chase what retreats. Don't lower your frame to gain attention. Don't abandon your direction to win someone back. You are not meant to be a performer in someone else's emotional theater. You are meant to stand as your own pillar. And if she no longer feels you, maybe it's because you stopped feeling yourself. If this video is speaking to something deep inside you, if you feel the truth in these words, consider subscribing to the channel. It helps us create more content like this to reach more men who need it. And from the bottom of our hearts, thank you for being here. Part 5. The Fall of the Idealistic Man. You didn't just lose a relationship, you lost your center. You lost the axis your identity unknowingly rotated around. Not because she left, but because everything you were building inside was secretly built on her presence. Your strength wasn't yours, it was borrowed. Your sense of peace was fragile, hanging on her responses, her affection, her consistency. And when she pulled away, your foundation cracked. You weren't grieving a woman, you were grieving the loss of yourself within that connection. Because you built your identity not around purpose, but around being loved. You gave up your edge, your direction, your solitude, believing that intimacy meant dissolving into her world. Your joy rose with her smiles. Your anxiety surged with her silences. Your confidence became conditional on whether or not she chose you. You called it love, but it was emotional dependency. And that's exactly what the Stoics warned us against. Because Stoicism begins where illusions end. It begins when you stop begging for reassurance and start questioning why you needed it so badly in the first place. It begins when you realize she was never obligated to return your love. She didn't break the contract because there was never a contract to begin with. That was your fantasy. Seneca wrote, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." You were everywhere, for her. Available, predictable, constant, but nowhere, for yourself. Your goals blurred, your presence faded, your masculine core was sacrificed on the altar of trying to be enough. The fall of the idealistic man isn't a tragedy, it's a rite of passage, because only when the illusion dies can something real begin to rise. Part 6. You allowed it. The most powerful phrase in Stoicism isn't "I am strong," it's "I allowed it." Those three words don't blame, they don't accuse, they reclaim, because they take the story out of her hands and put it back into yours. You allowed your standards to erode, slowly, subtly. You allowed yourself to prioritize her feelings over your integrity. You allowed your silence in moments you should have spoken. You allowed your needs to shrink because you thought being easy to love meant being easy to please. And worst of all, you allowed your sense of self to orbit her gravity instead of standing firm in your own. And now the pain you feel, it's not punishment. It's the teacher you refused to face when you still had her attention. The universe whispered, but you didn't listen. So now it roars, but not to destroy you, to awaken you. Because what truly hurts isn't just her absence. It's the haunting realization that you betrayed yourself. That the man staring back at you in the mirror is a diluted version of who you once were. Not because of her, but because of the choices you made to be chosen. You abandoned yourself to serve a fantasy. You believed that if you just loved harder, gave more, bent further, she would stay. But all you did was show her a version of you that wasn't anchored. And instinctively, she stopped feeling you. Not because you were wrong, but because you were no longer real. The Stoic doesn't harden in response to pain. He clarifies. He doesn't seek revenge. He seeks alignment. When you say "I allowed it," you're not shaming yourself. You're stepping back into the role of creator. You're taking back authorship over your life. Because if you were the one who betrayed your values, then you are also the one who can restore them. This is where your power begins. Not with more affection, not with another woman, but with one brutal, liberating moment of self-honesty. And now as the ashes settle, something unexpected begins to stir. Not revenge, not regret, but responsibility. Because what comes next isn't survival, it's transformation. Part 7. The Stoic Path Forward. This is not a call to hate women. It never was. Stoicism doesn't preach resentment, it teaches perception. This is a call to understand women, and more importantly, to understand yourself. Because the truth is, most men don't fall apart because a woman left. They fall apart because they never built anything solid before she arrived. A Stoic man does not beg. He doesn't perform. He doesn't lose himself trying to gain someone else. He does not collapse because someone changed their mind. He does not crumble when affection fades. Why? Because he never based his value on someone else's attention in the first place. He stands firm, not because he's emotionally numb, but because he's emotionally centered. Not because he doesn't care, but because he refuses to be controlled by what he can't command. His peace is internal. His validation is internal. His mission is internal. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. You estimated that her presence equaled your worth. You believed her love defined your identity. That belief, not her actions, is what wounded you." A Stoic path isn't about becoming colder, it's about becoming clearer. When she walks away, you don't chase. You don't spiral. You don't try to force meaning where there is none. You release her. Not because you've given up on love, but because you've reclaimed your path. You walk, calmly, confidently, further into your own purpose. Because the real test isn't whether she comes back. The real test is whether you come back to yourself. Part 8. The End of the Illusion. The Birth of the Man. The illusion doesn't die when she stops texting. The illusion dies the moment you stop lying to yourself, the moment you stop clinging to the fantasy that her love will complete you, that her presence will validate you, that her approval will save you from your own emptiness. You stop asking, "Why didn't she love me more?" and you start asking, "Why did I believe I wasn't enough without it?" That shift is seismic. It's the moment a boy dies and a man is born. You weren't destroyed by her. You were destroyed by the lie you fed yourself daily, that your worth depends on being chosen. But now, you know better. You see with new eyes. Eyes that have cried, yes, but also awakened. Because real masculinity is not about being adored. It's about being aligned. And a man who is aligned does not bend to be loved. He does not shrink to be accepted. You were never meant to be a servant to love. You were meant to be a sovereign over yourself. To lead your life, not follow hers. To build your purpose, not orbit hers. To guard your peace, not trade it for moments of attention. This rebirth isn't dramatic. It's silent, quiet. Like a man rising from ashes without fanfare, only with fire in his eyes and steadiness in his breath. He doesn't roar, he decides. And that decision is this: never again will I abandon myself for a fantasy. So let the illusion die. Let it burn, if it must. Because from those flames something greater emerges. A man who no longer begs, a man who no longer hides, a man who doesn't chase shadows but walks in truth. Unshakable, calm. When a Stoic man loses a woman, he doesn't lose himself. He doesn't spiral into bitterness. He doesn't lash out. He doesn't become a ghost of the man he once was. No, he reflects. He sits with the silence, not to escape it, but to listen. He faces the pain, not to numb it, but to learn from it. He reclaims what he gave away, his time, his energy, his center. And then he rebuilds, not to prove anything to her, but to remember who he truly is. Because in the end, love isn't about being needed. It's about being respected. It's not about being everything to someone else. It's about being everything to yourself first. A man grounded in himself is not afraid to walk away. Not because he doesn't feel, but because he refuses to live on emotional scraps. And if she can't see your value from your calm presence, your clean boundaries, your quiet power, then let her go. Not out of spite, not to punish, but from dignity. Because your worth doesn't rise and fall with someone's attention. Your soul is not a campaign. It doesn't beg for votes. The Stoic man walks alone when he must. He walks through rejection, through disappointment, through shattered illusions. But he never walks lost. He walks with purpose, with fire in his chest and discipline in his stride. Because he knows the pain that once broke him is now the stone he steps on to rise. Seneca once said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." This was your friction. This was your trial. And now it's your transformation. So from this moment forward, stop searching for a woman to fill your void. Start becoming a man so complete that love becomes a choice, not a need. Let the world see not your wounds, but your wisdom. Let her memory sharpen you, not soften you. And let your silence echo louder than any scream for validation. You don't walk forward to be chosen. You walk forward because you've already chosen yourself. And that right there is your rebirth.